They basically said to me, he's young, he was healthy and fit before the accident, so hopefully he'll be okay.
I feel like I've like convinced myself so many times that I have it where I'm like, I don't have it.
Yeah. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Carling.
Oh, we're recording while you take a COVID test
I am.
because your kid. Ew, does that mean I'm going to watch you like shove it in your throat and then your
No, I
nose?
already did that part. I already did that part.
Oh,
I already
okay.
gagged and then my eyes like started watering and
So your
yeah.
youngest has COVID.
Yeah. It started with a really all of a sudden I was like in my room and then I could hear this like cough and I'm like, who's coughing? And you're like, wait
Yeah.
a second, who is that? And then it was Jude and it sounded like croup and he had croup not that long ago. So I was like, oh, he has croup again. And croup is like really common when kids go to daycare because it just gets
Oh.
passed around really quickly. So then we were supposed to go for dinner at my coworker's house on Friday night and I was like, okay, I need to test him before we go. I'm like, there's no way it's COVID. It's probably just
Right.
a
But you got to
cold,
be
right?
safe and yeah.
Yeah, like I'll just let her know that we tested and he has a cough, but it's fine. And then yeah, like line showed up like right away and I was like, and I barely got a sample from him because it took a lot of convincing.
Oh, he's 5.
I had to promise M&Ms and then still I only got to do one nostril. But yeah, it showed up like right away. And I haven't tested my other kids yet because we're not going anywhere as it is.
Right. But you said they're starting, like a couple of them have sore
A
throats.
couple of them are starting to show some symptoms. So I'll definitely test them either today or tomorrow. I also don't like want to waste tests because we're going to have to test a couple times.
Yeah.
But I have quite a few, so it should be fine.
Oh man. And this is like the first weekend where since I had COVID that I feel like I'm not working and I'm feeling good, like I'm not coughing as much. I've got my voice back.
I know we were going to like record together and
And then we
then
were going to hang
and
out,
then we
like
were
all
going
the
to hang out.
kids.
I
Like
know.
Lindsay's kids haven't seen your kids in a bit and now
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Oh
sucks
well.
so much.
I know.
I'll bring you a little care package.
Oh, you're sweet. See, I'm doing this test now and it's not showing up.
Okay, you literally just put the drops on though.
I know. I'm just expecting it to be like bam.
Bam, COVID. Yeah. How was your week like the week before Jude got COVID yesterday?
I think it was good. I really don't remember. I worked a lot. About
Oh,
it.
what happened on Tuesday? I forgot to pick up your kids.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
I was like, I cried. I felt so bad.
No.
That weekend before, you were like, oh, do you think you could pick up the kids after school on Tuesday? It'll just be the 3 oldest kids. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's totally fine.
It's funny because during that day at work, I was like, I never confirmed with her. I never for sure said, and usually you would message me and be like, what time should I go? And
Yeah.
so I was thinking, I'm like, I never confirmed with her. I got to send her a message. And then I got to work and I just got really busy at work. Then it was like 3:45 and I was like, shit, I haven't heard from her. And then I remembered that you said you had a doctor's appointment. So I was like, oh my God. So I like ran out of work, went and grabbed them and came back.
And were they all
And
just like sitting at the playground at their designated meeting spot?
they weren't there for very long. Oh, I have COVID.
Do you? Show me the test. Damn it.
It's not really that
Oh.
it's not that dark yet, but it'll probably can't see it.
Oh, no, that's COVID for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Oh, you heard it here first, people. Live on the air.
first on-air COVID test.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, I was feeling so bad last night. I was trying to sleep and I had a brutal headache, like so bad. I went and took Tylenol, I went and took a leave, like nothing was getting rid of it. And
Yeah.
my whole body was hurting and like my upper back is really hurting and
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a cough, but you can hear it in my voice. It's a little bit off, but no, that's great. I love that
Oh.
journey for me.
For 2 years now, it's been this sort of, I think, this anticipation of, okay, do we have it? Do we have it? Because when you live in a house with 5 kids, it
I mean,
feels just
I've
inevitable.
I've been working in with the public for 2.5 years. My kids go to school and daycare and they take the bus. Like the amount of close calls that we've had from people in close contact, I was like, we're for sure gonna get it. I was just waiting. We're vaccinated, but like still,
Yeah.
you can obviously get it.
Oh, man.
So
Best just everybody get it and get it over with.
yeah, good times. Anyways, going
Yeah.
back to you forgetting to pick up my kids. It was
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
It was totally fine. I feel bad that you felt bad.
Because then I got out of the doctor's office and I had a frustrating doctor's appointment. Then I saw you called and I was like, damn it. Like I knew, I was like, shoot. And so then I didn't hear from you right away. I was like, do I leave the doctor's office and like go straight there? Or have you
Yeah.
already picked them up?
Yeah.
Or luckily it wasn't raining yet.
I literally work like a 2-minute drive from where
Yeah.
they get off the bus. So I only had to pick up the girls because Adrian was at a friend's and the twins were at daycare. So it was just the girls and they hung out in the back for an hour until I was done work.
Okay.
So totally fine. My favorite part was a text that you sent me because for some reason, every time you type Jesus Christ, it comes up as Jesus Heist.
Yeah. My phone thinks it's funny.
I always picture like Jesus like robbing a bank or something.
Jesus Heist. Yeah, I still am working from home because I still have a cough, but then I've been
Yeah.
getting these like heart palpitations
Yeah, that's so
where it
scary.
almost just feels like there's like a butterfly in my throat is what it feels like. So Google says that it's just COVID. But then I was like, well, I should probably go to the doctor, get it checked out. So I like went to the doctor and he sent me for an EKG, which came back
Right.
fine. But then he was like, we'll do like a full blood workup. We'll just see like what's going on. That was on Wednesday. And then on Friday morning, the doctor's office called and said, oh yeah, the doctor wants to see you for a follow-up. Can you come today?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I have cancer and a week to live. That's the only thing
Absolutely.
that this could mean.
Well, we had deduced that either you have cancer or you're like winning an award for like healthiest patient.
Yeah, it was only going to be one of the two. I was going to get a
Yeah.
high five and a gold sticker for my outstanding health,
Yeah.
or I had cancer and I had a week to live and I had
Yeah.
to start making arrangements. Nothing in between. So I went in and I was all nervous and I was ready to hear the news. I had told my friend Rachel and she was like, do you want me to come with you? Lindsay said, I'll come with you. And I said, no, if I get this news, I better be alone.
Well, I didn't offer to come with you. I'm such a
No, you got a lot going on. So yeah, the doctor comes in and he sits down, he's got his laptop open and he's okay, so we did the blood work. The EKG was fine. And I said, okay, then like, why do I still have heart palpitations? And he was like, yeah, I'll send you for like where I'm going to have to wear a Holter for 24 hours, like a 24-hour
Right.
monitor. And I was like, okay. And then he starts going through the blood work and I'm like, this is it. This is where he says it. And he was like, okay, so your cholesterol, it's a little bit high, but you don't need meds. It's not that high. And I was like, oh, okay. Then he's like, your blood
So why
sugar.
bring it up then? Like,
Yeah, I know. And your iron is really good. You don't need iron pills. And he's like, your iron storage is really low. And he's maybe eat an apple a day. I was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, and your blood sugar, it's a bit higher than it was the last time we did blood work, but you're not even at pre-diabetes. Like, it's fine. And I was like,
yeah.
okay. And then there was something else and he's, oh yeah, this is fine, but it's fine. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, so what's he going to tell me?
Yeah.
And then he just brought up that I'm fat. And I'm like, thanks, Sherlock. Like, I know this.
You're like,
So I was like, so everything's fine? He's, yeah, everything's okay. And he's, if you lose weight, everything will improve. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, I thought I was dying all day. And then
Yeah.
we're going to tell me that everything's fine.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
That's so frustrating. He probably just needed to like bill someone for the day. So let's throw her
Yeah.
in here so I can bill
Yeah.
whatever.
Like a follow-up appointment, whatever the government pays for.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So
annoying.
anyway,
sorry.
I'm not dying, but I also did not get a gold star.
That's rude. If you're
Yeah.
if you're gonna call your patient fat, you should probably give them something.
Yeah. Not a sucker. Maybe give me a
A popsicle
Yeah.
or something.
like a fruit-based sugar-free popsicle.
Oh
But that
my
was
God.
probably the most exciting thing that happened in my week.
Yeah, no, that's
Oh,
oh.
do you know what though?
I actually have something to say after, so tell me.
No, you tell me.
No, it was just like the funniest thing, and it made me think of you because of the whole dog thing last week. I'm at home, and all of a sudden the doorbell rings, and it's 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'm like, what's happening? And I go to the door, and this man, I'm pretty sure he was gay. He was like so sweet, and he had this little like Shih Tzu or something. He's like, my dog went to the washroom, and then I had a bag, and I picked it up, and it was great. But then he went again on your lawn, and I don't have a bag. Do you have a bag? I'm so sorry. I was like, it's fine. He was so apologetic, like he couldn't believe that his dog had the audacity to poop twice. He's like,
Twice, yeah.
I've never done this before.
Oh my God.
then
That's so funny.
And then he pointed to my flower. I got a hanging plant from a friend when
Yeah.
I moved. And I don't know what this leaf is called, but they don't like the cold, so you better bring it inside. And I was
Oh, that's so
okay.
nice.
So yeah, he was like so mortified that his dog pooped for a second time. It was so
That's
funny.
Yeah. You got a friend request from somebody and you were
I
like, this seems
did.
strange.
It was
And
alarming.
you don't have any mutual friends, right?
I don't think so.
But
It
this
was
person right on their profile says,
right out the gate. She was like full on, this is who I am. Let me find it because it was so bizarre. Okay. I love Jesus! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. And I know he loves us. If you'd like to find out how I know that, ask me.
great. Yeah.
So it's like a
So you-
MLM church
Yeah.
cult sort of situation. We don't have any mutual friends. She did study at Brigham Young University.
Oh, okay. Is that a Christian college?
That's like a Mormon.
Okay.
Brigham Young was like the guy who like made Mormons or something. Him
Oh.
and the other guy. I don't know. I think it's like a new way of being a missionary. Is we can't come to your door, but we're gonna send you a random Facebook request.
Yeah. So Lindsay got a friend request and then a DM from somebody, and this girl and your friend request are mutual friends.
Funny.
And I was like, this seems
Lindsay
very
knew
familiar.
her? Lindsay
No,
knew her?
Lindsay has a mutual friend from like hockey. Like she doesn't even know this guy, but they're like mutual friends on Facebook.
Okay.
And so she got a message and it's like, hey Lindsay, how you doing? And I was like, we may have had some edibles last night. And we were like, we have to message her back. And so she's like, hey Chloe. And then she sent the like hands together in a heart shape emoji.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, what a cute emoji. How are you doing? And so she was like, I saw that you were in the same group on Facebook. And so I'm reaching out to people in the area, but she never said what area.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's like a mom group or like something that you are both in.
Yeah, she's on like the community's buy sell
Yeah,
page or
maybe.
something,
Yeah.
right?
She was like, oh yeah. She was like, yeah, me and my girlfriend just bought a house in the area. And she's, oh, that's so great. She said, do you know what a missionary is?
Right.
And Lindsay said, yes, my girlfriend and I do missionary work, mentoring youth in the LGBTQ plus community. And she's like, oh, that's so great. I'm a missionary, like with whatever she said. And then she said, I gotta read it. Hang on.
My favorite thing was when you first sent it to me, I was like, this is either an MLM or a religious cult.
Yeah. So she said, yeah, I'm a missionary. And then Lindsay just sent the thumbs up emoji because we didn't know what to say. And she said, yep, I like it a lot. And then we sent her a gay Jesus gif. And it's like Jesus dancing and like on a runway. And then she said, aha, that's awesome. Are you religious? And then Lindsay said, no, I'm a lesbian. And then this girl didn't respond. And she's like, shoot, I went too far too fast. And I was like, maybe ask her if she's ever met a lesbian. Like maybe she doesn't know. And so she was like,
no, do you know what a lesbian is?
Yeah, she said, have you ever met a lesbian? And then we thought, okay, we lost her. She didn't even read the message. Like she realized it's a lost cause. And this morning she said, oh, of course, I have a lot of friends in the LGBTQ plus community. So we got to carry on this.
Be a missionary with you.
Maybe we show her the way. Let's have a
so.
battle of the agendas.
Now you're going to have to make up like a fake missionary with like fake like pamphlets, your gay agenda. That is so funny. I love that so much.
Yeah, it was a really good time. Today's episode is another one that I did without you.
I know, so rude.
I interviewed this girl, Carly, who her boyfriend Terry was in a motorcycle accident and they're from our province. Terry wasn't sure if he wanted to be part of the podcast, which is like totally fine. We angled it to be Carly's experience as like a caregiver and the wife of somebody who did this, but Terry wanted to be like, he was there while we recorded. Yeah. And so it's funny because I think at the beginning I even say, hi, Carly and Terry. And then I'm like, oh, sorry. Like Terry, he didn't know if he was going to comment on it. Right. So he just sat quietly, but we got him talking a little bit. He's really shy. Yeah. So
he ended up with a traumatic brain injury from the accident.
Okay. Well, you're just going to have to listen and find out.
Oh, sorry. Spoiler alert.
They were so nice to talk to, and they're such a cute, lovey couple. I hope that you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hello, Carly. Hello, Terry.
Hello.
Hello.
I want to acknowledge I shouldn't have said hi specifically to Terry. Terry's here peripherally, and you're here to listen and maybe talk, but you're shy. So that's valid.
Yes.
But we wanted to acknowledge in case you like laugh or say something, we'll know who's here. It is so nice to meet you guys.
You as well.
How's your Sunday going so far?
Pretty good. Went to church and then had a quick lunch and went to the gym, and then now we're here.
That's so nice. Yeah, you guys are like really into fitness. That's like your whole job, isn't it?
I do personal training part-time. I'm also an x-ray tech, but big part of our
Ooh.
life is fitness. So yeah, we've been going to the gym about 4 or 5 times a week since Terry's been home from the hospital.
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. I found you guys on TikTok, but was super thrilled to find out you're in Alberta, which is where we are. Your story was just so incredible and interesting, and I just wanted to hear more. So I reached out. So I would love it if you can introduce yourself, and then I'm excited to get into the story.
Okay. Terry and I met 4 years ago, and we met at the gym actually, which is why our life is so gym centered. But we both love the gym. And then we've been married for 2.5 years now.
Ah,
And we went on a big trip last August to celebrate our 2nd anniversary. And then a month later, Terry got hit by a car on his motorcycle on his way home
oh
from
my
work.
God.
So he was in the hospital for 5 months after the accident. He got a pretty severe traumatic brain injury, and then he also broke his back and his hand and 2 ribs. So lots
My
of
God.
healing to be done. We were up in Calgary at Foothills for about 5 months, and now we've
Wow.
been in the hospital for 2 months.
That's so scary. So maybe can you talk a bit about what happened in the accident? Are you like a seasoned rider?
Do you want to talk, Terry?
Yeah, I've been riding for about 5 years, and I go on a lot of trips, and I rode the bike to work as much as possible.
One of the perks of Alberta weather is he actually, I think, rode his bike every month of the year last year in Lethbridge because it was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just would ride as much as possible.
Lots of weekend trips with my dad too.
Yeah, so it's weird now not riding at all.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
accident wasn't, like, Terry wasn't at fault. They actually didn't determine any fault yet, and the police report hasn't been finished because he
Oh,
was going
wow.
straight through the intersection, and the lady that hit him was turning left, but there's a witness that said Terry had a green light and a witness that said she had a green turning arrow, and no other witnesses came forward.
Right.
So that's a standstill right now with what happened at the accident, but
Yeah.
Terry was just going straight through the intersection going home, and yeah, got hit by an SUV. So
When was this? What month was it?
September.
The weather must have been fine. The roads were dry.
It was
Like,
nice out, yeah.
do you remember, Carly, like how did you find out that Terry had been in an accident?
I was actually at the gym. I was with a client, like a brand new client. I'd never trained her before. It was our first time together. And then one of the girls that works at the front desk came up to me and she's like, Carly, the police are on the phone for you. And it took me a second and I was like, oh, the only reason the police would call me is if Terry was in an accident on his motorcycle. So I
Right.
knew before I even picked up the phone that something had happened. Basically, I'm going to try not to cry because every time. Basically, it was a police officer on the other end of the line, and she just said, oh, is this Carly Williams? Is your husband Terry? He was in an accident. We need you to come to the emergency, like, right now. He's going to be airlifted to Calgary, but you should come and see him. And I was like, oh, no, like, this is
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And how did they know how to get hold of you? Was Terry still conscious enough to say, get hold of Carly at the gym?
So when they found Terry, I don't know if you're familiar with the Glasgow Coma Scale.
No.
It goes from 3 to 15, and they basically do a ranking of like your responsiveness, eye movement, response to pain, things like that. And the lowest ranking you can get is a 3, and like a potato would be a 3, for example.
Oh, okay.
Terry was a 3. No response, no eye movement, no response to pain, nothing. So the way that they found out to call me was quite a big circle, actually. Somebody had looked in his wallet, and they found his name, and they looked him up on Facebook, and they had a mutual friend who was a 911 dispatcher. So they contacted him, who is really good friends with my sister, And then my sister told them to call the gym because she thought I would be at the gym. So it went through three
That's
people. Yeah.
like what a world we live in.
And he'd never
And
been to the hospital here or to like a doctor in Lethbridge. So he didn't have an emergency contact listed anywhere in Alberta.
yeah. How long had you lived in Alberta before this?
1 year.
Oh God. Yeah. And so you don't even think, I guess, yeah, like on my phone, I've got those like in case of emergency, but
Yeah.
depending on the accident, your phone may not be found or in working order.
And it was
Yeah.
actually pretty ironic because his accident was on a Monday. And in the morning of that Monday, I work in a clinic. So I work with lots of doctors. Talking to one of the doctors in my clinic about how we were really struggling to find a family doctor in Lethbridge. And he's like, oh, if you're comfortable with it, I'll be your doctor. And so I had texted Terry like around lunchtime, hey, we have a doctor. And then 6 hours later, he got hit by a car. And I'm like, thank goodness we have a family doctor.
Yeah. He's okay. Check. Yeah. And so he got transported right to a Lethbridge hospital.
Yeah.
And that's where you went? Did you have to drive there yourself?
Yes. Yeah, I drove.
Was that like, do you remember that drive? I feel like I would just fly there.
I remember like my eyes darting every which direction because I was like, I cannot get in an accident on the way to the hospital.
Yeah.
I need to see everything. I just remember being like hyper alert of every car and every like thing that I was driving past.
Yeah.
Like, I need to get there and I need to not get in an accident. And of course, I was like crying. And then I remember parking probably a block or two away from the emergency department and just sprinting as fast as I possibly could, like to the emergency. And I'm huffing and puffing by the time I got there.
Like it's a good thing you're already fit, like to make that jaunt.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Because to me, if somebody was like, we're going to airlift, but you better get here, that's like worst case scenario.
Yeah. I basically was thinking that they thought he might die before I got there. So I went as fast as I possibly could.
And what'd you tell your client? Were you just like, gotta go, sorry?
I didn't say anything to her actually because I had walked all the way across the gym to the phone. When the girls at the front, I had told them what the police officer told me on the phone. I was like, I don't even know what to go say to my new client. And they're like, don't even worry about it. You go, we will talk to him. And she was obviously fine with it. She like texted me later.
What happened when you got to the hospital?
So I walked into the emergency department and obviously they triage everybody who comes in. And so I just said, I was called to come here. My husband was in an accident. I don't know where to go. And so right away, a social worker and a police officer came to find me because they knew I was on my way.
Yeah.
They brought me over. And we were standing like right in front of the main trauma rooms. I like looked into the one room and there was a guy on the table like full of tubes and wires and everything. And I just was like, oh my gosh. And the police officers, oh, that's not Terry. I was like, whoa, thank goodness. But then we took 3 steps to the next trauma room and Terry looked worse than the first guy.
No.
So it wasn't even better. Like he was on spinal precautions. So he had a big neck brace on and his head was all like in this little, it was like basically wrapped in towels to make sure it didn't move, and all the same tubes and everything as the first guy. So it was pretty rough walking in and seeing that. But.
Yeah. And how did the car hit like the side of the motorcycle, or was it more head on?
So somehow Terry had bailed his bike onto its side and then the car hit the very front of the bike. So I think Terry must have known that he was going to get hit, but he doesn't remember. So he can't say what he was thinking. But yeah, there's no damage on her car above 4 feet because the bike was on its side.
Wow.
On the ground. Yeah.
And so you see Terry, who is unconscious, level 3.
Mm-hmm.
And do you and Terry go together to be airlifted to Calgary?
I was not allowed in the helicopter.
Why? Just because you're not the patient?
I think it's because of COVID with social distancing and stuff. They can only have a certain, like the necessary number of people in the helicopter.
Right.
So they basically told me to go home and pack all of my stuff because it was going to be a long visit in Calgary. And I had no idea how long he would be there. No concept of, I remember going home and packing slippers and underwear for Terry.
Yeah, of course.
Like he wouldn't be needing those things for quite a while. But just, my sister met me at my house and she like helped me pack and she actually drove me to Calgary because I obviously wasn't. able to drive myself.
Wow. And did you have somebody come get your dogs right away?
We had a couple different cousins who like cycled through our house the first couple of days, one of
Oh,
whom
good.
had already dog sat for us before, so she
Yeah.
knew what to do. And then after the first 2 weeks of like people switching every couple of days, my sister just moved into my house completely
Oh, that's
and
so
stayed for
nice.
like 5 months. Yeah.
I work sometimes to help a friend at her dog care facility, and it's like
Mhm.
a daycare and overnight place. And people will call like clients and be like, "We weren't expecting this. Something happened, like wife
Mhm.
goes into labor or an accident or whatever."
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know. You just don't think about it. Who's going to look after anything else that's like at the house that's not you? Well, so you pack, you get to Calgary. Do you know that he's going to Foothills right away? Is that like a specialized hospital for this?
Foothills has, I think, one of the best neuro centers in North America.
Oh,
I think that's what they told me. They basically
yeah.
said this is like the best possible place he could go.
Yeah.
So it ended up being a really good that we were close enough that he could just, I think it's like a 40-minute helicopter ride from Lethbridge. So
And it's 3 hours to Calgary-ish?
yeah, from our house to Foothills is 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh. That's pretty good, actually. That's not too bad.
Yeah, maybe I was speeding.
And
That's how long it
yeah,
times I did drive.
yeah. And what was it like? God, that must have been the worst 2 hours and 29 minutes of
Yeah.
your life. And then you get there, and do they give you an update right away?
It was the same as when I got to the Lethbridge emergency. It was like, my husband's here. I was told to come here. I don't know where to go. And then the social worker came to find me and brought me to his room. And so he was in this tiny little like ICU room. And they were or not ICU. He was still in emergency when I got there because the ICU was full. So they had to wait for a room to open up in ICU. But it actually was maybe 3 hours. I think he got moved up around 2 a.m. So I got to stay
Wow.
with him, yeah, about 3 hours before they had a room open up in ICU.
And in emergency, are they doing like diagnostics? Are they trying to figure out what all is damaged?
Yeah, so by the time, like in Lethbridge, they must have done scans because I think they already knew a few of the fractures that he had. Like they always do a trauma series with x ray when somebody comes in. And then I think he for sure had a CT in Calgary and they did like full body scans. And I got to see them eventually, which was pretty cool. But I don't know what all they do with brain injury stuff. They knew
Yeah.
he had a pretty serious head injury. So
Did they give you like a prognosis at the time at any point, like that first, I don't know, 24 or 48 hours?
what I've learned with brain injury is there is no like timelines for anything. They don't give you any, not that they don't give you any hope, but they never give, oh, in 6 months he'll be able to do this. And because every person is different, every brain injury is different. They basically said to me, he's young, he was healthy and fit before the accident, so hopefully he'll be okay.
Right. Yeah.
That was it. That was all.
Yeah.
And he was in a medically induced coma like right away.
Right.
So it was a few weeks even before they could assess how much brain function he had.
Oh, and so do you know anybody in Calgary? Are you just like your sister left and you're just alone?
The first 2 weeks, my parents came up and stayed with me, and his brother got on like the first flight out from Saskatoon.
Yeah.
So I spent like a lot of time with Terry's brother.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy on her soul.
This is gonna be broadcasted. What if Lenny watches this?
Well, I do love Lenny.
That's fair though. I love my sister, but I could imagine if my partner had to spend 2 weeks with her. 5 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. And where do you stay? Do you get a hotel? I don't even know if I
Yeah.
had to leave to another city and didn't like know somebody that I would just go to their house. If that feels like insurmountable to try and figure out.
The first night, my sister and I stayed in a hotel. And then the next day, his brother showed up. And then the next day after that, my parents came up and it's a guest house and it's run by one of the Mennonite churches. And they run it specifically for families that have to visit the hospital. So it was like $50 a night per room that we used. So the more people that came up to see me, the more expensive it got.
Yeah.
And so I realized like we're going to be here a while. This is not going to be where we can stay for however many months I have to be here. So I ended up putting out a message on my Instagram and Facebook that I was looking for somewhere to stay. And I knew enough people in Calgary that I thought we could find something where somebody was like, hey, I'm on vacation. I need someone to stay in my
Right.
house, whatever. I thought we could find something. So I wasn't going to pay for a hotel or rent a place. And then we had one lady find a house in Cochrane, which is like 30 minutes out of
Yeah.
Calgary. And she's like, hey, I have this house and I'm not living in it right now. Do you want to stay there for a couple months?
Great.
And nobody's living in it. And she's like, the fridge is still full of food if you want to go, and you can eat whatever you find.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. So I ended up staying in that house for about a month and a half, which was pretty awesome. And then I just paid
Yeah.
for utilities. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. And your work obviously was like understanding. Yeah. It must be, was it interesting because working with x-rays, you already have, and being into fitness, like you have a better, more thorough understanding of the human body
Yes.
than like somebody who wouldn't?
I was incredibly grateful for my knowledge of the body, and like in my clinical, I had worked in a hospital. I was very familiar with all the vitals and the lab tests and all the imaging that they would have to do. And I didn't realize how much that stuff calmed me until I saw his brother in the hospital being a mess of what are all these numbers and why is this?
Yeah.
What are they doing? And I'm like, Lenny, it's okay. Everything is fine. This is what this beeping sound is. And yeah, it was quite an experience to do it with somebody who has no medical background.
What's it like phoning Terry's family to be like, there's been an accident?
Yeah, his mom is very chatty. I love her to death. But I called her from the emergency in Lethbridge, and she's just, oh, hi, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Like, hi, baby. And I'm like, Terry was in an accident. Like, I had to interrupt her to tell her that Terry was in an accident. And then I'm trying to figure out, like, when his last tetanus shot was, if he has any other allergies that I don't know about. And in the moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible wife. I don't even know when his last tetanus booster was. And she didn't know either, and I felt better. But 2021, you got another tetanus booster.
All right, good to go.
Yeah.
Should have told you that.
So what happens next? Like, time just goes by while he's in a medically induced coma.
Yeah.
Hopefully having the best sleep of his life.
Yeah. I wish they would have told us right at the beginning not to expect anything from him for a couple of weeks, because I was thinking this was going to be like Grey's Anatomy, where he's asleep for 3 days and then he opens his eyes and he goes, oh, Carly, I love you. Like, whatever. So on day 3 after his accident, or day 4, I had braided my hair because he likes how my hair looks when I take the braids out. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get my hair all cute for when he wakes up, right?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's like sweet though, to think, okay, this is probably going to be any day now. I want to look my best.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to just do my hair his favorite way. Yeah, it's not like the movies at all, because the first week he started to open his eyes, but he wasn't seeing anything. It was just, there was no damage to his brainstem, so he was able to control like automatic functions like blinking and breathing. But the whole first week in the hospital, that's all I got was blinking and breathing.
Her hair wasn't naked at that point, so I went back to sleep.
You're like, you know what? I'm going to give this another go.
I'm just going to close my eyes for a little longer.
Yeah. And are they doing like tests and I guess to check brain function all the time?
Because he was purposely put into a coma to let his brain relax, they didn't want to do anything that would make his brain work. So like they put him on a respirator so that he's not even controlling his breathing at first, because they just want to sedate the brain so that it just relaxes and heals without trying to do anything. So the first few days was like literally nothing.
Yeah.
And then every couple of days, they would try to slowly wean back some of the medications to see how he would respond to it. And most of the time, they ended up just like having to put him back under for a little bit longer.
That must just take a lot of faith, right? Like you can do nothing but just hope that it's working. Yeah. And what about, so like he broke his spine and ribs and hand.
Mhm.
Obviously, everybody, they doctors know this at this point.
Mhm.
And is that being treated, I guess? Like, or I guess you're casted and
He actually was never casted for anything. So,
wow.
because the first 2 weeks he's just like asleep and not moving, there's no, like, he's not using his hands, he's not
Right.
moving around, he's just like literally sleeping and not moving. So,
Yeah.
he never, I don't think he even got follow up x rays for his hand ever. It must have broken and then just gone right back to the proper alignment.
Right.
So there was no intervention done for any of his fractures. They just let them heal naturally. And he
Wow.
doesn't even remember anything being broken. He was not able to make any memories until after he was totally healed. So he
Yeah.
doesn't remember any pain or anything being broken, like nothing.
Yeah. If there's like a silver lining, like at least you don't remember that. Cause I imagine that would be excruciating.
Yeah, he doesn't remember any pain.
So then when do things start to show that there's maybe like more brain function or like to what degree that there might be damage?
The first thing that they did was take him off the ventilator. So I think at some point they removed a certain type of sedating medication. I don't know the details of all the meds and stuff, but then he started to breathe on his own. So they just gradually decreased how much oxygen they were giving him, and then they set the ventilator so that it only kicks in if he's not breathing at a certain rate or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was like the first big sign of, okay, so something is working. He's controlling his own breathing. I think it was like the third week, because they take out the breathing tube from the mouth after about 14 days, and then they put in one in the throat, like they do a
Okay.
tracheostomy. A couple days after they had moved to this one, he had started making these little buzzing sounds, like he was trying to use his vocal cords. But
Oh.
because of the way the trach works, the air doesn't actually go through your vocal cords because it goes through the hole here. So then it just seemed like he wanted to talk. It just seemed like he was trying to make sounds. So after a couple of days, when they knew, like, yep, he's totally good breathing on his own, we don't need to give him oxygen support or anything like that, they corked the trach and he could breathe through his own mouth and nose. And that was the day that I started playing music for him. And he started to sing along. I don't know if you saw my singing video or not, but
Yeah, I did. It was so sweet.
so I made a playlist of all of his favorite songs that I could think of that I
Yeah.
thought would maybe help trigger memory or something for him. And he did. He started singing along. And that's when I knew that he was still in there because he was singing his favorite songs.
That's amazing. And did anybody recommend that or did they give you as the like caretaker any advice on talking to him?
At the very beginning, they encouraged me to talk to him. And then once he'd been in ICU for a little bit of time, he was very reactive to any sounds or touch or anything. And he was having all of these, they call them sympathetic storms, where
Oh.
all of his vitals were like reacting as if he thought he was in danger. So
Oh.
I actually couldn't really talk to him or play any music for him the first 2 weeks because he was so sensitive to any disruptions. So it was a lot of silence. And then
Yeah.
once he stopped having those storms, I had read somewhere that it's really good to play music for people with brain injuries, but only for about 10 minutes at a time. So it's not super overstimulating. So that's when I started doing 10 minutes a day and talking to him a little bit. And then after they took out the trach, it was like the floodgates opened and he just wouldn't shut up after that.
That's wild. And so he's like awake, conscious, and he can talk. Can you tell at that point like a level of brain injury?
It was not like conversational talking, like they call it appropriate response. It was
Oh,
like
okay.
I'd say something to him and he'd go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was just numbers and like
Right.
some yeses and nos, but not necessarily the correct answer to whatever I was asking him.
Is that the same as aphasia where they think they're saying the right word, but it's coming out as something different?
Probably. At that point, we don't know what his brain was thinking or trying to
Right.
get out. So I don't know. They
Yeah.
didn't really explain anything like that to me. It was just
Yeah.
kind of, that was what came out. But then a few weeks down the line, he would have periods of making lots of sense. And then he'd answer a question with 258, and then he'd make sense again, and then he'd say 258. And I'm like, I don't know what the numbers mean, but
Yeah.
those numbers started coming out as if he thought he was saying something else. So that was
Wow.
the aphasia part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And are they doing any physical therapy?
Tons. Yeah. So he's been home for 2 months and he still gets physio, occupational therapy, speech therapy, recreational therapy, everything at home. So he has
Right.
1 or 2 sessions a day, every day, except for
Wow.
weekends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of therapy going on.
And how did Terry's job find out? These are
Hmm.
all the things I think about, like who tells who,
You know
like,
what?
because the world is still happening, like all around.
I don't even know. I delegated so many things to other
Yeah.
people that I don't know who had to be the bearer of all the bad news. But I
Yeah.
had posted on, I think, just Facebook at the beginning. I posted like, hey, Terry was in a motorcycle accident last night. This is everything that we know. And Terry's brother had also done the same thing with posted, this is what we know, this is what we don't know. There's kind of more things we don't know than we do know. So I
Yeah.
think any of his coworkers that had me on Facebook would have seen that and then had to update the rest of the office, the rest of the company. I actually requested at the beginning for people not to reach out to me
Yeah.
because I was sitting and waiting for the hospital to call me. And
Right.
if my phone was constantly going off, I couldn't even hear what the nurses were trying to tell me on the phone because it would constantly like ding. So
Yeah.
I think it was like the second message that I posted was like, please do not text or call me. I need to be able to have my line open for the hospital. Do not contact me. And I still would get 100 messages a day.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
the person being like, oh, I'll reach out,
I
but
know you don't want me to contact you back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you, so like a few weeks before you can really like converse with Terry and there's got to like when he's sleeping more than awake, how do you fill your time? Like, how do you stay grounded and calm?
Well, I got to stay with him at the hospital almost 12 hours a day. And I would literally just sit there and hold his hand all day. And my sister let me use her Disney Plus. So whenever he
Amazing.
was like sleeping, I would watch shows on Disney Plus. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I passed the
Yeah.
time, but I would sit there all day and stare at him. And sometimes I would just sit there for hours and watch the ventilator move his chest up and down.
Yeah. Because that's like your own trauma too of watching your partner and
Yeah.
this like big unknown. Did you know pretty early on that he was going to survive?
No, I had no idea.
Wow. Yeah.
And he had gone in for surgery on day 3. So they actually, the first 2 days, they just put him in the coma. And then on the 3rd day, they were like, no, his intracranial pressure is too high. We want to remove part of his skull to
Oh,
let
God.
his brain swell without causing more brain damage. Because if the brain is swelling and pushing out into the skull, he could get more
Yeah.
brain damage just from that. So they took out his whole forehead basically for 3 months and just stuck the bone in a medical freezer for 3 months. And
Like,
so
what a
on
world we live in.
yeah,
We're just going to open this up, just make a little space here for you.
we're just gonna take your forehead out and put it in the freezer. And his whole body had swelled after the surgery, like he was a balloon.
Right.
His brother did not even recognize him when he came to see him.
Was that really emotional as family would come and see? Because like you had your initial reaction, but now you're watching everybody else have their initial reaction.
Because of the COVID visiting rules, there was only 2 designated visitors allowed.
Oh, yeah, I
So
guess.
his brother, because he got out there first, was the other designated visitor, and nobody else was allowed to come and see him.
So like
So
his parents, your parents.
yeah, so we got to do like a FaceTime with him, but it was like you just see him laying in a bed.
Yeah.
There's no like conversation. It's just him laying on a bed. So his
Yeah.
parents got to see from a distance on a little blurry iPad camera
Yeah.
him laying in a bed, and they got to talk to him. And then I would let people call him from my phone, and I would just put the phone by his ear so that they could talk to him. They didn't really get to see him. His mom did come out, and the ICU staff let her come see him for 2 hours the day
Oh,
that he
good.
got moved out of ICU. And so at that point, like, he could open his eyes, and it looked like he could smile like a little tiny bit. I like
Yeah.
to believe that he was smiling.
Yeah.
Basically, she went to see him, and he smiled at me, and that was it.
Yeah. Did you have to tell Terry what happened?
About 100 times.
Yeah. Because there's probably like there's short-term memory loss.
Yeah, and I had read
Yeah.
somewhere, I'm a very researchy type person, so I had looked up all these things that you should do. And so
Yeah.
every day I would tell him, my name is Carly, I'm your wife, your name is Terry, you were in an accident on your motorcycle, but you're safe and they're taking care of you and you're going to be okay. Every day I would tell him that.
Yeah.
Just in
And is
case,
this while he
like,
was unconscious or just all the time?
from unconscious till he was like awake and moving around, but still like not really knowing what was going on.
Wow. So did he recognize you?
I think so. There was never a point where he seemed like he was scared of me or confused at who I was.
Right.
But I think with me coming to see him like multiple and like telling him multiple times a day, like, I'm Carly, I'm your wife, we're married,
Yeah.
we're Terry. Yeah, it just seemed as he came to consciousness, he knew who I was. There was
Yeah.
never like, who are you? Get out of my room.
Yeah.
I guess I bought her with a
You
ring.
didn't.
Yeah. You're like, well, I put a ring on it, I guess. It makes me think of that Sandra Bullock movie where while you were sleeping and like some handsome guy's in an accident and when he wakes up she's like, yeah, I'm your wife, like manipulate. I don't even remember the movie. I always think about things like that. If you don't remember the person, you just have to have this blind trust that they're not pulling your leg.
Yeah. No,
And to this day he's just, I don't know who
know
this
this
is.
lady.
She's got dogs and we work out, I don't know. And when did so you move out of ICU into just like a general hospital room? And then when does the, like, I want to say more physical work, but like learning, you had to learn to walk, to eat, to everything.
Yeah, so the first thing that the physio team did once like his back was cleared and they thought it had been enough time is all that they would do is try to sit him up on the side of the bed. And one of them would be behind him with like their knees right up to his butt and then hold his shoulders up because he had to relearn how to activate all the core muscles. He'd been in a bed for 3 weeks not moving at all. So
Yeah.
they just tried to see, can he sit up? And so the first few times they did it, they're just holding him up and he's swaying around.
Yeah, like a noodle. Yeah.
And then eventually he would straighten out his neck a little bit, or like he could lift his neck off the pillow. So yeah, right out of ICU, he was in the neuro step down unit, which is specifically for people with brain injuries. And all they did was sit up. That was it. And then when he
Wow.
moved into the other neuro recovery unit, they have what's called a tilt table. So they would just slide him over onto this table and then gradually tilt him up into a standing position to start putting weight through his legs. Because then he has
Wow.
to reactivate all the muscles in his legs. So they did that for as long as he would tolerate it. He did express back pain. You don't remember any of this, hey? No. So he expressed back pain with being vertical, which is understandable when you break your back. But
Yeah.
they would just do that once a week or twice a week and then continue with this sitting up. And then I worked a lot with him on learning how to feed himself again, but he had to pass a swallow assessment and everything before he was allowed to eat.
And how do they test that?
So the speech language pathologist is the one who does the swallow assessment. And basically what they do is they give you an ice cube on a spoon and see if you will chew it, if you have the instinct to chew something that's in your mouth, and if you'll swallow the water. And then they'll give you like a little tiny bit of water on a spoon and see if you will swallow it. So you have to be able to control clearing stuff through without choking on it or aspirating it.
Yeah.
And then they tried to give him those little peach cups.
Yeah.
They put a little piece of peach on a spoon, and he must have been feeling really sassy that day because he wouldn't eat the peach. He just kept trying to blow it off the spoon. So the speech therapist was like, I don't think he has any issues with the act of swallowing. So I'm going to clear him to try eating pudding and
Yeah.
yogurt. And he loved yogurt. Anytime he would get yogurt, he would eat all of it. And so once you are shown that you can start eating pureed foods, they put you on a pureed diet where everything is just blended up.
Yeah.
And they do a percentages thing. So if you get a meal and he eats 50% of it, then they'll also give 50% of the fluid food through his feeding tube.
Oh, wow.
Just to make sure he's getting enough nutrients.
Yeah.
If he eats none of the food on the plate, he gets a whole bag of the food in the tube.
Yeah.
Sense.
And then how do you go from because I've seen some of your videos where you're like doing a push up for the first time, or I guess what stage was it where you were starting to remember, conscious, and like doing more than just sitting up?
I think the memories started about 6 weeks in, and it has to do with the medications that he was being given, because one of them specifically inhibits your abilities to make new memories.
Oh, wow. Is that on purpose?
I don't know if that's the point of the medication or just a symptom of the medication
Oh,
because
okay.
of complete brain injury. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah. It wasn't until about 6 weeks where he could actually remember, oh, today is Tuesday. I'm in Calgary. And
Wow.
it was sporadic when he would be able to remember too. If they asked him 5 times a day, what's your name? Where are you? What day is it? He'd maybe get it right 1 out of 5 times. And then the next day, maybe 4 out of 5 times, and then 0 out of 5. There was no like perfect increase in how much his memory worked. It was just random.
5 animals.
That was actually right before you got moved into the rehab unit. So this is what Terry can now remember. Do you remember this, or just from me telling the
I
story?
remember it.
So to assess if he was ready to move into the actual rehab unit, they do a series of questions and stuff to see if he's a good candidate. And the lady had asked him to name as many animals as he could in a minute. And this was his answer: dog, skunk, physio, skunk, dog, physio, dog. Did I say dog? Skunk.
That's
And
amazing.
she's like, good job, you're doing great. And that was his original assessment moving over into the rehab unit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be such a wild memory to have, because you can like remember that you're not answering in a like neurotypical way.
Yeah.
And I thought they were all perfect answers.
Yeah, he thought he
Yeah.
was doing good. But you never know, like maybe every time he said physio, he actually was thinking of a different animal, but just not getting the right word out. Yeah, it's very interesting how the brain works.
Yeah. And is there any point, Carly, that you're like, I don't know, that's like such a heavy, is there any point that you're just like, am I going to get my partner back, or am I going to be a caregiver for the remainder of his life?
I don't think there ever was like a specific moment, because his progress was so steady that we just always assumed it would keep going. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever had a moment of, oh, maybe this is all I'm going to get, because he just kept improving.
Right.
And I just kept hoping for more. He had been talking a bit more, but not always making sense. But there was one day where he started to tell jokes. And it's not that you could tell it was a joke because of the actual content of the words. It was
Yeah.
just the way that he delivered it and then would laugh after. Like the first day he started laughing at his own jokes, I was like, oh my gosh, Terry, this is Terry, because he
Oh
is
my God.
making jokes and laughing at them. And all the nurses and health staff around would laugh too, because the way he said it, we were all just convinced that it was supposed to be really funny, even it like didn't make sense what he was saying, but we would laugh with him. And so all the staff just fell in love with him because he was so goofy and so nice. And occasionally he would just let fly random sentences that sounded really like Terry,
Yeah.
even though half the time he wasn't making any sense. And like
Yeah.
the physiotherapy team would come in and they'd be like, hi, Terry, how are you? And he'd be like, hey, beautiful, I'm great. Like,
That's amazing. And did you stay in Calgary the entire 5 months, or was there a point that you went back to work?
no, I still haven't gone back to my x-ray job yet.
I couldn't imagine having to, like, that's so great that you're able to like have time to dedicate to this.
Yeah, it was a big part of his recovery, I think, was how much time I spent with him and
Mhm.
how many, like I said, I did a lot of research on how to help him recover. And so I would move all of his limbs around, every joint, to make sure they didn't get stiff. And if his leg was dropped, I would put pillows under his feet so that he didn't get drop foot, and like
Yeah.
constantly trying to ask him yes or no questions and stimulate his brain and try to get him to remember things. And yeah, never had a break from me.
That's amazing though. And did Terry go from the rehab place to the wherever you were staying, or straight to back to Lethbridge?
After he was discharged, yeah, we came straight home.
And that must have been amazing, scary, stressful.
Amazing and stressful, but
Yeah.
we still had a lot of support because of the rehab at home. And I think at the time that we left the hospital, he wasn't getting any like help from nursing staff other than them bringing him his medications. So
Right.
it's not like he needed any care. He was dressing and showering and brushing his own teeth. Like he didn't need somebody to do those things for him. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like we moved home and then I'm instantly like doing all these things for him still. He could do it himself.
Yeah. It must feel, I don't know, did you feel proud of him?
Oh, always. First time using a fork, first time brushing his teeth. Every first that he had, I probably documented.
100 though.
He still apparently. Oh man.
How much do you attribute, like, you guys were really physically fit and really active in gym and fitness, and that must have played a role in the, like, physical recovery?
Absolutely. Even if you just think of how much muscle he lost from being in a coma, if he would have started with less to begin with, it would have been harder to rehab because he wouldn't have had any muscle to even lift himself up. Because he had so much muscle before the accident, if everybody loses 20% of their muscle, but he started with more,
Yeah.
then it's easier for him to start walking and moving his arms and sitting up because he still has muscle left.
Yeah.
And the doctor said that if I didn't have as big of muscles in my back, I would have broken half, perhaps.
Oh my
And then I would have been
God.
in a wheelchair forever.
Basically, so he broke
Yeah.
his back at the level of T12, which is around belly button height.
Yeah.
And when they showed me his CT scans, the doctor in ICU was like, look how beefy his back and hip flexor muscles are. And it is like 4 columns of muscle around the spinal cord and around the spine. And he's like, all of these big beefy muscles are just like hugging the spine and all the bones in place. And we don't know if those would have shifted if he didn't have that muscle, but I definitely think the muscle saved his back because he could have been paralyzed from the belly button down.
So I guess, so now, this many months, now that you're home, what are some of the things that are still improving? Or do you know if there's going to be any long-term effects that you're just going to have to live with?
The left side of his brain was more damaged, so that is what controls the right side of his body. So we're still working on the coordination. Mostly his right leg did not move for the first 7 weeks in the hospital
Wow.
at all. So with walking and stuff, we're still trying to work on that right leg being as coordinated as the left leg and just walking smoothly. He can ride a bike now, but
Oh.
can't jog yet. So jogging is our next goal, and being able to carry like our dog's water dish smoothly without spilling is something that we're working on. But because he's still making good progress, I'm pretty hopeful that he's gonna get any function back that he wants to keep working on. So
Yeah. In terms of the brain healing, I hear a lot that one of the things with traumatic brain injuries is like anger or like a mood shift. Has there been any of that?
I think we're pretty blessed because Terry's personality is pretty much the same as before, and his temperament hasn't changed. Like he's always been a
Right.
big teddy bear. It hasn't changed at all. He's like pretty
Yeah.
much the same. We don't have issues with him like with random bursts of anger or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very goofy.
That's amazing. And so, what about Terry's job? What did Terry do for a job? And is returning to work something that is going to happen in the future?
Do you want me to talk about your job or do you want to talk about your job?
I'm a logistics coordinator, so I'd book trucks I worked at a trailer manufacturer, so
Oh,
I'd
okay.
book the trucks to come pick up the trailers.
So it's a lot of planning and
Yeah.
organizing and
Yeah.
calling people and getting things set up with the border and get trucks and stuff.
Yeah.
He has not gone back to work yet. The goal is to go back eventually, but he has to be able to like plan and organize a whole day's worth of stuff. And
Yeah.
then with like he's a little bit quicker to fatigue would be the way to say it.
Yeah.
You know, the same activities for me aren't as exhausting as they are for him, and he needs like 13 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't be able to go back and do a full day of work. He would be just
Mhm.
totally wiped out from that. But they're super flexible with when he goes back to work, with how much time he needs to be there. If he needs
Good.
an hour a day, they're willing to work with him. So
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
yeah.
And then tell me about when you got home and you got to see the dogs for the first time. Because neither of you saw the dogs, right? For 5 months.
I saw them once or twice because when he was in ICU, his visiting hours were restricted a little bit.
Okay.
a couple of times just because of the COVID visiting rules and stuff. So I came home for 2 nights. I just drove home at night, slept at home, and drove back. But you can talk
Yeah.
about how it was for you. I'm going to grab my.
How it was to be with the dogs?
Yeah. What was walking into your house? You must have been excited.
I was excited the whole way home. Yeah, I was like beyond excited. I love the dogs a lot.
You were
And
excited for weeks before we came.
yeah, I was excited for weeks. They just love to cuddle, and like
Yeah.
they're not very great with visitors, but they're pretty great with us. They love us. So it was pretty fantastic to come home, and it was just nice to like have them lay on your legs and go to sleep. It was just like it was fantastic. I loved it.
I love that. And so your sister moved like back to wherever she was living?
Yeah.
And then what about Terry's brother? Did he stay the whole time or did he come and go from Saskatoon?
He stayed the first 5 weeks, and then he had to go back to Saskatoon for a few different events, I think. But he was going to come back after a month. And I was like, if you're going to be gone for a whole month, I'm going to change the designated visitor to my dad, because him and my dad get along really well. And my dad lives here in Lethbridge, so it's only a 2-hour drive. Then my dad came to visit quite a bit, and I think you liked that. And we just never redesignated his brother as a visitor.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
I don't even remember my brother coming because like I wasn't conscious really
Yeah.
at that point, so I don't
Yeah.
remember it. But I tried to choke him the one day in the bed.
Yeah, so you had mentioned
What?
you mentioned like the anger and aggression that sometimes
Yeah.
he did have that at 4 to 6 weeks after the accident, but only this might be too much information, but only on suppository day. So he
Oh,
would,
I would also probably be
Yes.
very
if
angry.
you know what a suppository is, then
Yeah.
you know why he was quite agitated.
Yeah.
And so his brother would come and visit, and we would call it verbal abuse time because Terry would just yell and swear. And I think he told Lenny he was going to kill him and punch him in the face.
Oh my God.
And then you'd come back the next day and he'd be all sweet and lovey.
Yeah.
Well, one day it was like, F you, I hate you, get out of my face. You're so beautiful.
Oh my God.
Thankfully that passed once he could independently go to the washroom.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Sorry.
No, I don't think people think about, yeah, when you're first requiring like total care, like that's part of it. And
And your
Yeah.
bowels aren't working when you're sedated either because things stop moving. Yeah.
yeah. So what is life like for you guys now? Do you have your plans for the future changed? What does the next like 6 months or a year look like?
Our plans definitely got shifted around a bit because we were trying for a baby at the time of Terry's accident, and
Oh my
we are
God.
no longer at this time. We're
Yeah.
gonna-
Can you imagine if you had found out you were pregnant?
Oh, yeah, that would have been very stressful.
That's a movie plot right there.
I actually found out, I think he was still in ICU when I got my first period after, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not having a baby. And it was a moment of maybe my husband will die and I don't have a baby. And then after a couple days of processing, it was like, okay, this is actually a really good thing because I do not want to be
Yeah.
pregnant and have to deal with a baby and all of this trauma all at the same time. But we're still going to have kids at some point in the future, just not quite yet. So I think right now he still has therapy until May or June. So our main focus is just to do his therapy and keep him healing as much as possible. And
Yeah.
then I'll probably go back to work in a month or two. And I don't know, we're going to do a little bit of traveling. And Terry will go back to work eventually, I'm sure. He still wants to get his driver's license back. So he's got a bit of work to do before he can go for his driver's again.
Yeah. And I guess probably no more motorcycles.
I told him he needs to get a new wife if he would like to ride his bicycle.
You're like, Terry, it is your choice.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I've been looking for a new one for months now. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
And what about your dad? Is he still riding a motorcycle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably.
Does that bother you? Are you like, Dad?
He gave up riding when my sister and I were kids.
Yeah.
And now he's somewhere in his 60s. So I'm like, if that's how you want to go, see you later. Like,
Yeah.
whatever. Obviously, I love my dad.
That's amazing. You guys are so adorable. And like, what a good outcome to this story, because I know there are so many people who are in motorcycle accidents that don't end up so lucky.
Yeah, we're very blessed with how far he's come and how much of his personality is completely the same. There are a couple differences, like he now drinks his coffee black instead of with cream and sugar,
Oh.
and he
And is
doesn't
that like your preferences changed?
Yeah.
and he doesn't
Wow.
do his fingernails anymore. So just like,
Oh.
and I trained him in the hospital to put his clothes in the laundry hamper at the end of every day.
I feel
I
like it's
make the
part of your
bed.
physical therapy.
Yeah, I make the bed every morning now,
Yeah.
which had
So
never
Amazing.
happened before ever my whole life.
so he's the new and improved Terry.
Yeah, that is, you don't have the sugar in your coffee, your nail bite. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing, actually. Terry, has it, if you feel comfortable answering, has it been frustrating to get back to the gym? Because I've seen, like I've seen video where you're doing like extraordinary feats like muscle ups and push ups, and then to have to like relearn that and realize that it may take a while to get back to that.
The motions aren't really as hard. It's the weight that drives me nuts. Like I think last year I like did a 455-pound deadlift, and now
Oh
it's
my
at like 95. So like
Yeah.
it's like oh shoot, that sucks.
He gets frustrated when I can lift more than him.
Yeah.
But he has put on like 25 pounds of muscle already.
That's
And
amazing.
he can outlift me in all of our upper body movements already. So
That's amazing. You guys, thank you so much for being so honest and vulnerable. I think it can be, especially because the accident was so recently, like it's real fresh to talk about it. But
I didn't cry. Yes.
I know you did really good. And Terry said a few things like, this is very good. That's great. I appreciate it so much. And I think we've interviewed quite a few people with either brain injuries or like major like motor vehicle accidents. And it is so different.
Yeah. Terry's had quite a miraculous recovery. That's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll let you guys get on with your day. Go play with those pups.
Yeah.
And we'll talk really soon.
Okay. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Carling.
How are you feeling now? It's only
Well,
been
it's
like
been
1 minute
5
since we did
minutes
the
since
intro.
I tested myself. And
I'm going to
feel
be
great.
bothering you now being like, how are you? How are you? How are you?
I know.
I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm nervous. I'm nervous about, because I think right now I'm probably at like 75% feeling
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
but I'm worried about what's to come.
Yeah. You just got to take care of yourself.
Well, just because like people have experienced it so differently.
Yeah.
Some people are like, it was just a cold. It was just a no big deal. And then some people are coughing their brains out like you. And I'm like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
scared.
I was still able to like function,
Yeah.
I wasn't like bedridden, unable to stay awake, but I
Yeah.
didn't feel great. It was pretty
No.
bad.
Yeah.
Carly and Terry, thank you so much for being part of our podcast.
Yes. Thank you so much. It was fabulous to
Oh.
listen to.
Yeah, they were so lovely. I think they're such a cute couple. I love watching their like TikToks and Instagram posts. I feel like motivated to work out because Carly is a personal trainer and they both do a lot of like fitness and working out
Oh, wow.
together. Yeah. I am excited. We didn't talk about our Patreon, but we just had a Patreon episode last week.
Yeah.
And we have another Patreon. We're going to do a Pride themed Patreon in June. This is a terrible promo for Patreon, but we're flying by the seat of our pants here.
Some of us have COVID.
I am. Everybody should check out our Patreon. If you like the show, if you want to support the work that we're doing, you can sign up.
Content?
Yeah, if you just love us and need more of us, then join our Patreon for as little as $5 a month. You get 2 bonus episodes a month that you'll never hear on the main feed. We tell our own traumatic stories. We share other people's stories who wanted to keep their audience smaller. And we do giveaways. We're going to do a Pride giveaway. And yeah, all you have to...
I also have some good news for you. It seems like Wet Wednesdays is taken off.
Listen. If nobody understands what Wet Wednesdays is, go listen to the intro of last week because we are launching Wet Wednesdays, and I think in July there's an extra week where we could do 3 episodes that month, like the way that the weeks fall. And I thought maybe for July we do a Patreon preview at all tiers, $5, $8, of what Wednesday is going to look like, and then we're going to make a tier for people to be part of Wet Wednesdays.
Oh my
Wet Your Whistle Wednesdays.
I hate it.
I'm going to get you a t-shirt that says member of Wet Wednesday, founding member.
Oh my Gosh, that would be conversation piece, that's for sure. Holy
Oh
cow.
my God. I hope everybody has a great week. If you're still listening, thank you. If you're liking this podcast also, and if you're maybe not in a position to join our Patreon right now, go on wherever you're listening and give us a 5-star review, leave us a review, share it with somebody, download a bunch of episodes. That's really helpful to us because that's how we grow and we really appreciate it. And there are so
Absolutely.
many ways to support the work that we do that aren't all financial.
Agreed.
Even follow us on Instagram, Facebook, like
Yeah, any sort of interactions, likes, comments, it all is appreciated, and we love seeing all the comments and interactions with everybody.
it's true. When we message with listeners, like on Instagram and stuff, I just feel like they're our friends.
My favorite thing is when somebody's listened to the episode and they'll message us with something funny from the episode.
Yeah.
Like they just love it. And
Yeah.
oh, and also I shared remember how last week you said, what would I do if I found out someone I knew murdered someone? And I said I would call Dateline.
Yeah.
I posted that on my Instagram and I tagged Dateline and they sent me like a little clapping hands emoji. I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I
know.
love that.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I'm in
Oh.
with Dateline now.
Yeah, I should have tagged them. Yeah. That's so funny. Oh, I will let you get on with your day and
Okay.
I'm going to put together a care package for you. I don't know what it's going to
Oh,
be yet. And yeah, everybody have a great day.
all right. Sounds good.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.